You've studied English for years, but you still can't speak. Why does this happen? It happens more than you realize. And if you're having this problem, you're not alone. I work with students who have this problem all the time. They learn English, maybe they've been learning for years or even decades in some cases, but they still can't speak. And it's frustrating. It feels like you've not made any progress. It feels like you've wasted time, which is why in today's video, I want to talk to you about why this happens and what you can do to fix this, what you can do right now to start speaking English more confidently. Now, first of all, let's talk about why this actually happens. And it happens, in my experience and the experience of the teachers I work with, because the way you learned English at school was wrong. You probably focused a lot on grammar and writing, maybe also on reading, which is great. Those are all very important, but the way the education system is designed in many parts of the world is flawed. It has a lot of problems because it doesn't focus on speaking. It doesn't make an effort to help you speak. It focuses more on skills like grammar and writing and not actually on speaking. And obviously that's a problem because language needs to be spoken. Purpose of language is communication. If you don't speak, you can't communicate. Of course, you can write, but at the end of the day, speaking is, if you're like most students, the priority for you. So the good news is that it's not your fault. You might have learned English the wrong way, but you can still change that. You can still break that bad habit. And the key is to stop focusing so much on grammar and writing and instead to focus more on speaking. It's really simple. You identify the problem, and in this case, the problem is you haven't spoken enough, and you do more of what you need to do. And in this case, you need to speak. You need to open your mouth. You need to communicate and get used to communicating with people in English. You see, grammar alone won't build fluency. Grammar is a tool. It's a tool you can use to become fluent, but it's only a tool. And what you have to do is whenever you learn a concept, whenever you learn a rule, you need to actually apply it to your life. You need to figure out how this rule, how this grammatical concept actually relates to your life, how it's actually relevant to your life. For example, let's say you learn a conditional sentence. You learn how to form conditionals. If you don't know what conditionals are, subscribe to English at the Ready here on YouTube. I have lots of videos on grammar. But conditionals are difficult for many students. It's the fact that you learn the rule and you forget it. You can't remember it. And the way to overcome this problem is to make it relevant to your life. So let's take this conditional sentence here. If I won the lottery, I would buy a new house. If I won the lottery, I would travel the world. That's a very common conditional sentence. And you see, you can really make it about you. What would you do if you won the lottery? Or for example, you could say something like, if I went to dinner, I would order soup, or I would drink wine. Do whatever. You could say, I would do this, I would do that. You're making the conditional sentence relevant to your life. So you're forming a bunch of hypothetical sentences in your head or when you're in conversation with somebody, and you're actually applying it to your own life. And that's going to make it a lot easier to remember. Whenever you learn a new grammar rule or vocabulary or pronunciation, try to actually apply it to your life. Now, another problem that students have is they learn using the textbook. And the way we speak is totally different from how you might have learned English in the textbook. For example, if you watch a movie or you go to an English-speaking country like the US, the UK, or Canada, you'll notice that native speakers often use different words. They use slang, they combine words together, they speak very quickly. And if you only learn English using the textbook, you'll have trouble understanding native speakers when they speak quickly. Again, it's also about expanding your vocabulary. It's not just about learning to speak or to understand fast spoken English. It's about expanding your vocabulary, because if you don't have a big enough vocabulary, what will happen is you'll be in a conversation, somebody will say something, and you won't understand. And you'll be trying to figure it out. But the conversation will already be 10 steps ahead. So you're lost, you're stuck. And that's a vocabulary problem. So if you can expand your vocabulary and increase your active vocabulary, which is the vocabulary you use every day, it'll be a lot easier for you to interact with people and to communicate with people every day. Now, if you want to improve your English, if you want to learn more about how I can help you or how my expert team of teachers can help you start speaking English more confidently, click the link in the description below to learn more. We've talked about grammar, we've talked about vocabulary. I also want to talk to you about speaking. And I want to talk to you a bit about perfection, because lots of students believe they have to speak English perfectly, but you don't. In fact, you can't speak English perfectly because this isn't possible. It's not possible to be perfect. It's not possible to use every single rule perfectly. Language is naturally imperfect because we are human and humans make mistakes. There's nothing more human than to make a mistake. So stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to use English perfectly or to follow the rules exactly. Because if you do, you get in your head. And when you get in your head, you don't speak. You feel nervous, you feel shy, you feel embarrassed even. And when you feel embarrassed, when you feel nervous, you don't speak. And when you don't speak, of course, you won't become fluent. Because to become fluent, you just need speaking practice. It's very simple. You need vocabulary, you need grammar, of course, but above all, you need speaking practice. You just need to open your mouth and speak. You probably know this as well. There's a good chance if you're watching this, you know you need to speak, and maybe you're making excuses for not speaking. Or maybe you don't have anyone to speak to. If you don't have anyone to speak to, I do have a video on this topic, which I know will help you. You can watch it. I'll link it in the description below. So there are no excuses for not speaking. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. It doesn't matter how much time you have. You can always find time to speak. Because learning English should not be something additional in your life. English is not like tennis or like basketball or something where you have to block out 2 hours every day to work on it, to practice, to improve. You don't. You just need to make it part of your life. It's a tool. Language is a tool. It's a tool to communicate. You already communicate in your own language. You already listen to podcasts, to ebooks, audiobooks rather, to movies in your own language. Why not do that in English? We say you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You're doing 2 things at the same time. You're multitasking. So do whatever you do in your native language, but do it in English. Just change the language, change the medium of communication, or the medium of understanding, let's say. Now, if you learned English in school, you probably had a teacher. You probably had 20 other students in the class. And honestly, that can help. It can be good, but only if you have a chance to speak and only if you have a chance to ask questions and to get feedback. Because if you don't, there's no point. If you have questions, you need to have somebody answer your questions, because there's a risk that you will form bad habits. And when you form bad habits are very difficult to break. Now, we live in an amazing time where we have access to so much technology. 5 years ago, you could Google something, and now you can use ChatGPT to get you the answer. But at the end of the day, whether you use AI, you use Google, you use Bing, you use a teacher, you need to get feedback, because feedback allows you to change direction. It allows you to make sure you're on the right path, and when necessary, to change your behavior or to change your course depending on that feedback. So you need feedback. You can't do this alone. I mean, you could, maybe, but you'd take a lot of time and you probably would make a lot of mistakes. You would form a lot of bad habits. So if you can get feedback, whether that's from a native speaking friend, which sometimes has problems because again, native speakers do make mistakes, a teacher, ChatGPT, Google, do it, okay? You need to be curious. You need to always ask why. Why do we say it like this? Why do we use this word here? Why do we pronounce this word like this? Because if you are curious, if you're always asking why, then it means you're looking for answers. You're looking for solutions to your problems. You're looking to grow. You're looking to improve. Be curious, ask why, get feedback, and your English will improve. Now, I hope you found this video useful. Again, this is a problem that so many students face. I see this all the time. I see this every day, actually, with my private students and also with the students that are studying with us in our programs. So trust me, you're not alone if you've been studying English for years or even decades and you still can't speak. You just need to make a few simple changes in your life and you will see an improvement. Hope you found this video useful. If you want to learn more about how you can study with me and my team, click the link in the description below, subscribe to English at the Ready here on YouTube, and I'll see you soon.